Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about the film From Here to Eternity, which is an American film produced in 1953. It talks about Pruitt, who was an army member who was transferred from one unit to another in Hawaii in 1941, some months before the Pearl Harbor attack. And as soon as he arrived to his new unit, he was requested to fight boxing for his new unit because through those boxing competitions, it was possible to obtain some promotions for the unity, for individual soldiers. However, he returned to fight. He didn't want to have anything to do with boxing. And later we find out that he was so stubborn in refusing to fight boxing because he once blinded a guy who was his sparring partner. He felt very guilty out of that, and he promised to himself that he would never fight again. However, those guys who were upper in the army hierarchy from him. They made his life miserable, especially the officer who was in charge of the entire unity. And Pruitt made lots of unnecessary, heavy work, dirty work, and he was teased all the time, and he suffered a lot. He only had one friend, who was Maggio, who was played by Frank Sinatra, who even received an Oscar as supporting actor for his role. And then time passed, nothing changed because Pruitt still refused to be a boxer. Then Maggio took him to a club where he was a member, and Pruitt met a woman called Lorene. They both fell in love and got attracted to each other. However, Lorene told Pruitt that she was in Hawaii to work, save money, then build a house in the United States for her and her mother, and that she wanted to have a proper family, a proper husband. And then Pruitt said that his real talent was to be in the army, so they both wondered if they would have a future together. However, in this same club, Maggio picked up a fight with a tough army guy, and this army guy, he worked in the prison of the army. And Maggio, he was in the habit of overdrinking, and once, when he was on duty, he left his post to drink. So he was punished and he was in prison. And then this guy who worked in the army prison, he took it as an opportunity to take revenge on Maggio, and he was severely beaten there, which is something arbitrary. It wasn't something that the army itself ordered. It was only a personal revenge of one guy against the other and against the army, because the army didn't allow this kind of treatment. Okay, and then after a while, being severely beaten, Maggio got to run away from prison and passed away in Pruitt's arms. Pruitt decided to take revenge on the guy who killed his friend. Of course, that Maggio, he was severely beaten in prison, but he got to run away from prison in a truck, but then he fell out of the truck, and it made his wounds even worse. And yes, all those things together caused his death. Pruitt decided to take revenge on the guy who killed his friend, and he murdered the guy. Then Pruitt had to leave the army because he would be severely punished if the army found out that he killed a fellow army man, of course. Then he took shelter in Lorene's house and left the army without telling anyone. Okay. And then at the same time, we can see that the leader, the commander of the entire unit, he had a wife, he cheated on her, she was very unhappy in that marriage. Then she had many lovers. One of them was a sergeant of the army who worked directly with her husband. We can see this love story too. And then after a while there was a serious fight between Pruitt and another army guy who was provoking him, who was teasing on him, until Pruitt reacted. They both fought and the commander did nothing to stop the fight. However, someone even above in the army hierarchy of this commander, he found it out. Then the army as an institution, realizing that he was maltreating one of the soldiers, that it was completely arbitrary, and the commander, he had to choose between court-martial or sign a resignation letter from the army. Of course, he signed the resignation letter and left the army out of his own will to avoid the humiliation of the court-martial. However, the Pearl Harbor attack happened. Many people died, both in the film and in the real life, by the way. Pearl Harbor attack happened. And then Pruitt, he was still in Lorraine's house. He was very seriously hurt because when he killed that guy who killed his friend, they started to fight with knives, and the guy, before he passed away, he stabbed him. So he was still very hurt. Lorraine begged him that he remained with her, that he didn't return to the army, but he realized that it was already war and he wanted to join the army and, of course, to make something for his country. However, there were many people in the army in the island. They told Pruitt to stop, and he didn't stop running, and they shot him dead. Then we can see that the sergeant told Pruitt after his death that he could, you couldn't really play smart. Look what happened to you. And then the sergeant was very, very sad for Pruitt's passing. And this is how the film ends. I don't have strong words to recommend this film. It's excellent. It has the best that Hollywood Golden Age can provide you. It has excellent actors, excellent production values. It really has a story that develops in a proper way. It's not too fast or too slow. We can understand things properly. The film is very well directed. When Hollywood wants to do something right, it does. It can't be wrong. It's an emotional film and even revolutionary because there were some criticisms to the army. Of course, not the army as an institution, right? The opposite. As soon as the army found out that Pruitt was maltreated and that Maggio was the victim of revenge, of course that both people were punished for harassing their soldiers. However, it was shown in the film that patriotic soldiers, people who really wanted to help their country, that they could be victim of injustices within the army. Not the army as an institution, because of course they wouldn't insult the army of their own country. Come on. World War II had ended less than 10 years before. But bad people, there are bad people everywhere, also in the army, and they could commit injustices against their fellow soldiers, against their fellow countrymen. This is something that wasn't usually mentioned in Hollywood Golden Age films. It's something really, really interesting. Even though Maggio, who was Frank Sinatra's character, okay, he left prison, he got run